Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
I'm Jared Flo.
Thank you for joining us again. So this podcast is all about subcontractors, vendors, and labor, and how they secretly and silently, and sometimes right in front of your face, screw you financially.
That's right.
We're going to cover what you should do, A, to not allow that, and B, if it does happen, how do we react to it, what do we do, and kind of what's the path forward with those type of vendors and subs.
That's right.
So, Jared,
That's right.
Let's start off by covering how exactly, what are the main areas that subs are screwing contractors. And oftentimes it's passives, oftentimes it's, they're not trying to get over on you, but because you haven't put things in place, they're able to take advantage, and you're the one that's holding the bag when they mess up.
That's right. Well, I mean, the first place is where they're on the front end dictating to you exactly what they want, the amount of money. That's okay, but that's putting them, setting a precedence with them that they're in charge of the money.
Yeah.
And that's also dictating how your company is going to go, how your jobs are going to go, what you can charge your client, all of that stuff. But the other big place is typically in the middle or towards the end of the job, where they come back to you and say, I need more money. If you want me to finish this, I've got to have extra cash. I need, this is costing me more. I've, mismanaged my money. They're not going to say that, but they've mismanaged their money. And for them to be able to get the job done, it's going to cost extra amount of money. You didn't budget for that. You didn't, put that into your cost. So you're either coming out of your pocket and out of your profit of this job, or you're having to go back and ding your client for something that is not really their fault.
Yeah.
And so that's causing you to have reputation issues. It's causing your client to feel like you're taking advantage of them.
Yeah.
So there's multiple areas throughout a job where crews can be a pain and cause you cause issues within your company because they're screwing your cash flow.
It's the blank check contractor that the vendor often has a blank check, and you're trying to keep them below what you budgeted.
Right.
And they just like, well, I need more for this. If you want me to show up, I need more for this. I think that happens.
They start looking at you as a bank.
Yeah. That happens two times though. There's two different ways that I've experienced a sub needing more money from me. One, they said, I didn't know I was supposed to do that.
Right.
I didn't know, that wasn't part of our scope. That wasn't, and there's you're not clear on, the client thinks it's getting done. The sub never thought it was getting done.
Right.
And so I'm here holding it, having to pay for it to get done because I can't charge them because they already thought they're paying for it. I can't force this guy to do it because he never thought it was part of his scope.
Right.
And so I'm stuck.
And whether you think you had or know you had the conversation with him, you don't have anything other than him saying, no, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's one. The secondary one that often happens is, hey man, this has taken 3 times as long. I'm going to need more cash to be able to get back out there on Monday.
Yeah.
Right. That's not scope change. That is simply, hey man, I mismanaged my time and thought I could do it for this and I can't, so I need to get it done. So those are kind of the two where the money going out that you were expecting increases from it. The other ways that we've talked about is, one is having depending on how you do materials and purchasing, a lot of all of our vendors and our subs buy on our lines of credit in our account. So they'll go to Home Depot and do a phone sale with us, and when they're doing that, the Snickers bar and the Diet Coke and the I needed that Fat Max and all that sort of thing that starts happening gets added in, and now my bill was $30 more than what I should have paid.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal, but now I have 10 vendors doing that weekly. I'm losing $300 a week on that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one where they don't realize that they're spending your money and what is and isn't allowed. That's kind of another spot that they screw. Now, the other way that they screw you is by bailing, ghosting, taking your money. That part we're going to set up and talk through how to avoid that.
Right.
Once you're in that, that's a different story.
Absolutely.
We've got other podcasts on how to exit and how to fire and how to replace subs. And so we're not going to cover that part of it today. But what we're going to talk about is what you can put into place, how you organize pre-discussion with that vendor to where we have everything understood, and then how do we, throughout the job, ensure that there's enough money left to pay this guy to get it finished.
Right.
So step one, the very first thing you have to do, and I know that this is so repetitive from all of our other podcasts, you have to systemize your processes.
Yep.
This is more, we yell often about systemizing your processes, and this podcast is how you do that, right? And so how do I systemize the process of vendor management?
Right.
One of the most important things in starting out with vendor management is I am going to pay on a set day for the amount of work done during a set time period.
Yeah.
So any work done Monday through Friday, I'm going to pay you on Friday. That's how a lot of guys do it. Any work done the way we do it, any work done this Wednesday through next Tuesday gets paid next Friday.
Right.
That way I can inspect, I can mail checks to the people that need it. They'll get there by Friday. I have a couple days to make sure that everything was done right. But they know whatever work is done by end of the day on Tuesday, they can get paid for on Friday.
Which it's creating clarity for them of what am I getting paid for, and when am I getting paid for that? When will I receive that money? And creating that standard, creating that where, there's probably plenty of guys out there that they have people working for them and they say, yeah, I'll get you paid on Mondays or Tuesdays or Thursday or whatever. And it gets to that day and they get busy. They have to be out on the job somewhere and they don't get them paid. And the guy's chasing them down for money. That's the type of issues that will cause people to be flaky and just leave and not stick with you and whatever. The dependability of knowing what I'm getting paid for and when I'm going to get paid for it is something that a valued vendor is going to be looking for.
Yeah, there's a consistency there. And they know exactly what has to be done by when to get paid. So if they don't make enough money that week, that's on them because they knew what did you do Saturday? What did you do Sunday? If you had to have this money, you could have gone and finished that work. So then I could have paid you by Friday.
Yeah.
Right. And so they can understand how to work the system to get as much money as they can.
Well, and with my guys, a lot of times I would make sure to tell them, even in a front end meeting, if you've got some personal expenses or things that you need to pay for and you need to have money to do that, talk to me about it. Tell me about it. Give me a heads up. And I can tell you, great, if you can get this done by this time, I can get you a check for that amount of money.
Yep.
Right? I can't, but I tell them, if you come to me on the day you need the money, I can't cut you a check for work you haven't done.
Yeah.
Tell me ahead of time, and I'll gladly help you get to the place
work together
where
to get it.
That's
get
right.
You there.
That's right.
All right. So the systemizing of this. First, we have the set pay for a set amount of time every single week, every other week, once a month, however you run your company.
You just whatever you figure out, you have to make sure that you can adhere to that week over week, month over month.
That's right. So then I'm going to sit down with my subcontractor. I'm going to go through a subcontractor agreement.
If you've heard about a CEA, it is the CEA for subcontractors.
That is it. And we've covered this before, so we're not going to go too deep into it. But on that agreement, I'm going to hit a couple high points that have to be in there to really do the next steps.
Yeah.
First thing you got to do is there's really three areas that we cover in the sub agreement. One is on-site expectations, operational requirements, and termination. Kind of the boilerplate stuff. This is what I expect when you're on site. I want the job site clean. I need the thermostat set to X. To work for us, you got to have this level of insurance. When this is how we pay, when we pay, this is what, all of just the operational on-site requirement stuff is obviously in there, and we go deep into that on a different podcast if you rewind a few months. Secondly, how that crew can and cannot spend my money. Right? When you go, this is how we do phone sales. This is what you can buy. We look at every single receipt, and we have hundreds of receipts a week, and we look at every single one of them because we look at what was purchased on this receipt. And we tell them, you're going to get dinged $75 if you buy a Snickers bar on my car. Do not buy a Snickers bar on my car.
Years ago, we got to the end of the year, and we realized there was, $1,000, $1,500 worth of Coca-Colas and Monsters. That's literally cash. Like if we had a bucket of company cash, they just came in and just grabbed that money out.
Well, it's just a Coke. It's not a big deal. Try to scale with just a Coke.
Right.
That's the issue on it. And once they start sneaking that in, they start sneaking the next thing in, and all of a sudden you're buying them tools and you don't realize it.
Yeah, that's right.
So we lay out what they can and cannot spend our money on. We also lay out what they can and cannot say to our clients. And we give them freedom to tell our customers, hey, I'm not allowed to talk with you. You should call the project manager, give him a call, and he'll discuss this project with you, which helps them with giving them the tools while they're on site to keep their job going, as well as keeps the line of demarcation very separated between who's in charge and who's communicating with the client and who's promising what to that client.
Right. Well, and by creating this front end expectations, you're going to naturally narrow down the guys that are going to be capable and willing to do this.
Yep.
And the guys that you've got on your payroll or that you're sending 1099s to, that they're really just kind of not, they're not going to toe the line for you.
Yep.
They're not going to help you keep your reputation. They're actually the ones that when you ask them to hold them accountable of like, here's what I expect from you and you must do this to continue, that it's going to weed those guys out. And you're going to end up with a better team because you've set this into place.
Yeah. And the third thing that we cover in the sub agreement is how they get paid.
Yep.
This is so important. So there's 3 ways that we do this. We start by showing them what a work order is and how the work order system works in our software. So ProStruct 360, when you build an estimate, every single line item you can invoice or you can send a work order for. And you can select all of your line items and send them all at once. You can say these 3 are going to this guy. You select it, you hit schedule, you put the person's name in, you put the dates you want it started and finished, you hit send, pops up an email, and you're sending them a work order by email. They're scheduled to get paid when you mark it complete in the software. So it's all organized for you. All you're doing is saying, okay, this part of the job is yours, this part of the job is this other guy's, and this part's going to the cleaner.
Yeah, and so long as you have spent the time to build out your estimate and your details, that means that the work order that's going to that guy has the address, the client, what client information that you want them to have, who the project manager they're supposed to call, every detail of the line items of what needs to be done, what area needs to be taken care of, the color of paint, all of that different stuff, and $1,000, $10,000, whatever it is, get these done by these dates, and this is what I'll pay you. Then you get to you avoid the, well, I didn't know about that. No, it's right here. What did you not understand about that? Well, I thought you were paying me $15,000. No, it's right here. It's $10,000. There's no so you avoid some of those spots, and you have something to point back to versus the guy saying, well, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
And so I need to, if you want me to do it, I'm glad to do it. You need to pay me an extra $1,000.
So if you go back one episode in our podcast to the faster estimates episode that we just did last week, if you go to that and we talk about your line items being detailed and how to do that with presets to where every single time you click on something, it just spits out all the description.
Right.
This is not only important when clarifying to the customer, but this clarity, like Jared just said, goes onto the work order. So instead of paint interior of house that the client thinks that they're getting the basement done, for your vendor, the description of I'm painting the full main level but not the basement. This includes this. This doesn't include this.
Wall, ceilings, trim, whatever it is.
This doesn't include closets, but it does include the trim, that sort of thing. That's all on the quote. The client understands what they are and are not paying for. But more importantly, almost, when it's on the work order, I can now say, Jared, vendor, listen, you just said it says right here, you're going to do all of this work, and here's the price I'm paying you. What's unclear about this, right? And so when we talk about the areas where they screw you and where you lose money on vendors, it's they didn't think that they were, when they said, I can do that for $2,000, they didn't realize you wanted the trim done. They didn't realize you wanted the ceilings painted. They didn't realize all this other stuff. And so you're clarifying that before you go into a bid contract with that vendor.
Yeah. Well, and I would take that after I've sent it out and the guy says, yes, I'll go ahead and get that done. On day one that guy's showing up, I would go to the job and walk it with him and say, okay, let's look at these line items. Do you have any questions? Is there any problems? Do you not understand something? You understand that we're not painting closets. We're only painting, right? And make sure that that's understood. And then we can, and then I could walk away knowing that the clarity's there. They understand there was no miscommunication. Now we're good to go.
That's right. So that's why we do our work order system the way we do, and why the software is built the way it is. These work orders that you have, I print one out, and I'm sitting in my sub meeting, and I'm sitting with my vendor. I slide it across the table and say, all right, here is what the work orders look like. Here's the date, because every single line item has a start and finish date. So that way we can say all of this stuff should be done Monday, should be finished by Wednesday, or maybe different line items have different dates. You can arrange it however you want to do it. But that way I can say, so I'm going to tell you when you're agreeing to start and when you're agreeing to finish. This is everything you need to do. And at the bottom, there's a final total amount.
Right.
And I say, every single vendor, I say, this work order is a contract between you and me. And so when I send this to you, don't just start the work.
Right.
Look at what I'm asking you to do and look at the price. And this is the only time that you can say, Clark, I can't do that work for this price.
Yeah.
You are in charge of you, and you know what you can get done, and you know how much you have to make. I've budgeted this amount of money for this amount of work. And if I miss something, this is the point that you can say, Clark, how are you expecting all of this work to get done for that price?
Yeah.
And I could say, oh, I didn't even think about it. I missed this one thing. Let me go back to the client because we haven't started the work. And my client agreement says, and after I start work, I'm not going to change the price on you unless the scope changes.
Right.
And so I can go back to the client and say, hey, I totally messed up. I put in 200 square feet for painting instead of 2,000 square feet for painting. This is an error on my side. The actual price is this. They can approve it. Then I can go to my vendor and say, hey, thanks for catching that. Yes, I can pay you that amount for this amount of work.
Right.
And now we've got a contract between me and my subcontractor that says this amount of work, high detail for this price.
Well, in our pre-written subcontractor agreement, it has that specifically spelled out.
Yeah.
That this is the time and opportunity for you when you receive a work order for questions, problems, issues, and even negotiation. I can't do this for $10,000. I need $15,000. Okay, I'll do it for $1,250, whatever it is. But it also says when you start work, the work order in front of you is what you're agreeing to execute that work during, get all of that work done during this period of time for this amount of money. So that's your signature at the bottom of the page. You starting the work is you saying, I'm cool with this.
Yeah, and this is the spot where I start identifying us as a contractor separate than other contractors that this subcontractor's worked for. I start saying, listen, this is how we operate, and let me show you behind the veil. I am agreeing to the customer that once we start work, I'm not going to change the price unless the scope changes.
Right.
And so because I promised that to them, I don't have any additional money to give you. So if you start painting the house and you're like, I can't do this for $2,000, and you're halfway through, I don't have any weapons to go back to the client and get more money out of them.
Right.
So you have to be accountable for what you're agreeing to do in this contract.
Yeah.
And that makes so much sense sitting at this table with that vendor, right? They're like, okay, that makes sense. I can do that. But spelling that out here and saying, this is non-negotiable once you accept it is the key here. Now, we also spell out what's the difference of a change order and negotiating current work, right? A change order, what I need from you, vendor, is if you see something that's not on the scope, pause and raise your hand. Don't fix it. Don't go do it.
See something, say something.
Yes. How many times are they like, hey, that was there was rot in that wall, so I went ahead and replaced it. Buddy, I can't pay you for that because I don't have it in writing with the client. And as I told you in our meeting, unless I get it in writing from the client before we do the work, I'm not going to charge them for it.
That's right.
So we lay all that out with them so they understand if there's a change order, I'm not asking you to just eat it. Raise your hand. Let me know. I can go back and do a change order with the customer, but I can't do it after the fact. I can't go after the job's done and say, hey, also you owe me $800 because I painted one additional room.
Yeah.
That's not okay in our company, and you're agreeing by signing this agreement that you are waiving your right to be able to do that.
Well, and also another piece of this is that, how many times have you had guys come to you and say, I need a $5,000 check this week?
Yep.
Well, you haven't completed $5,000 worth of work. Yes, I have. Just, hey, can you help me out this time? Can you go ahead and get me that $5,000 check?
Yeah.
This is where in that spot you have the opportunity to make the software the bad guy. Right. This is the spot where you can say, look, I would love to be able to cut you that check. Me and you are buddies. I would love to be able to do that. The problem is that the client can see what's been completed in the software and what's not.
Yeah.
So I can't pay you that extra $5,000 and close a line item out and show it as 100% complete. And then the client come in and be like, what? I can't pay you for this. That's not done.
Yeah. So a little background on what Jared's saying. In our software, if I have a line item, we keep using that paint line item.
Yeah.
I've got a paint line item. my vendor is 50% through, I can click on that line item and say 50% complete. If I was paying them $2,000, it's going to generate a bill for $1,000 in the software for you to either cut a check or say, hey, I paid them through this check, or do a direct deposit, however you pay your vendors. The bill for $1,000 is there because I said this line item was 50% complete. At the same time, the customer portal says, hey, Clark believes this line item is 50% complete.
Right.
So the customer can see the percentage that I have paid you.
Right.
And we explain that to our subcontractors and vendors and saying, so I can't cheat because I'm lying to my customer and they're going to get angry and mad at me.
That's right.
So I'm making the software the bad guy. And I'm saying, listen, I will love to pay you all the money I owe you, but until you get to 100%, I can't mark it as 100% complete because then I'm going to need to invoice the client, and I can't.
Right.
So I can only give you 75% because there's still work to get done. I will cut you that. I'm so sorry. I know you need that money. How about this? If you can get it done by Monday, I will go ahead and go outside of our normal processes and hand cut you a check on Monday for the last 25%.
Right.
But I can't pay 100% because the client, I'm stuck in the middle. I can't help it, right? And so making the software the bad guy, you can still be the good guy. You don't have to be the guy who's like, sorry, I guess you don't get to pay rent this month.
Yeah, especially if you've got project managers working for you and the project managers having that conversation with the crew, that's one thing. When the crew's having the conversation with the owner of the company, they're like, come on, bro. You can make this happen.
I saw that truck you pulled up. You got it. You can give me an extra.
And to be able to say, no, we discussed this. I can't pay extra money on this job until it actually gets done, because that would be me lying to the client, because the client can see how much has been complete. And so I can't fudge it. It has to be done or it's not done. And the workaround is, like you said, look, I'll get you the $2,500 that will be done based on this. If you can get everything completed by the end of day Sunday, I'll cut you as the owner. I'll cut you that extra check on Monday morning. Right.
So clarifying that with them, talking through, that's how we do it. Also, one last thing, going back to the sub agreement, is we lay out how they can exit the job, right? And so we lay out what they need to do, how they do it, how they get paid. Everything, and what we're doing is setting them up to be a support for us, because if they know how to exit a job and handle our job site, they will do it that way because they want to get paid and not come back. And so what we're essentially doing with our best subcontractors is we're making them better businessmen, better businesswomen, better companies that we're subbing to, because we're helping them follow our processes. And so all of these processes that we're laying out with the work orders, with utilizing the software to be the bad guy, this is all helping them, if they follow it, be better business people in their companies, and that makes us a better company because our vendors are awesome, right? And so it's a really good circle of you help me, I help you, and let's build our companies together in a partnership in growing this way. So one of the last things we need to cover too is with one of the biggest ways that what you were talking about, the emotional, hey, I need rent, it's Friday, I gotta get rent paid, it's due today. We do not carry checks to the job sites. Well, I don't walk around with a checkbook. That is an emotional decision. What I want to do is I want to pre-make the decision of how much this guy's getting paid before he knows. I'm going to say, we're about 40%. I'm going to pay him 50% of this. That's very generous. I show up with that $1,000 check and say, here you go, Jared. Here's it, or I mail it to you, or I direct deposit to you and say, hey, you're 50% done. You got paid for half the work order. It's not a discussion of how much you're getting paid. I am stating this is how much I'm willing to pay you. If you look at big people like banks that finance this stuff, they're not walking around saying, well, Jared, how much do you want? Okay, and you got bills that you got to pay. Okay, I'll go ahead and pay you that. No, they look at the work and say, I'm not releasing the funds on the item A because it's not 100% done. Right? And so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to act like a big company, and we're going to say, I am only going to release funds on the work completed, and I don't need your help to try and talk me into giving you more money. So I'm not going to walk around the job site saying, how much do you need out of that 10 grand? You need 5? Okay, 6? Okay, I'll give you 6. No, are they 60% done? No, so why are you giving them 60% of the money? Right? And so that's one of the biggest things. So we're shifting to direct deposit, to mailing checks, to having it to where it's systemized as a payment process off-site.
Right.
Secondly, and this is kind of a bonus one with the paying, I don't love delivering checks to my crews. Now, it can be a good thing. It could be a touch point. It could be Friday afternoon. I showed up with a pizza and some pay. That's always fun. But what I dislike about that, when I'm looking at a bigger picture of a company, is the efficiency of that. So I say, Jared, I'm going to bring you your check on Friday. We'll when I come do the walk, I got your check with me. Well, something changes on Thursday. My walk pushes to Monday because the client all of a sudden can't meet. And now I got to drive 45 minutes to a job site to deliver a check and 45 minutes back. So I wasted an hour and a half this week delivering your check when I could have mailed it, or you could have, I could have direct deposited it. To where I don't like delivering checks, because even though I'm going to plan on going there, my schedule shifts all the time.
Yeah.
And I care about efficiency of every minute I spend throughout the week on my
well,
job sites.
And really for me, the way that I try to do that is if I ever was delivering a check on site for a crew, I did that tied to something, to an executable.
Yep.
Like, look, you get all this stuff done for me. You get it done by Friday. I'm going to be there at 3:00 and I'll have a check for all of this for you. But
if it's done,
if it's
I'm
done,
inspect. Yep.
I need to make sure, because my client's got X, Y, and Z happening this weekend. If we are to this point, you got to be clear about what you want them to have done. I'm glad to tie that check, bring that check. But if I'm just bringing the check to them because I want to be nice and I'll drive it down to you and all this stuff, you're just being nice and you're wasting a lot of time and money when you could have just mailed the check on Wednesday and it'll get to them.
That's right. So all in all, what we are looking to do and again, labor isn't screwing you most of the time on purpose. It's because of your miscommunication, your inability to tell them exactly what's on the scope, as well as your flexibility that you try and have with payments, and then all of a sudden they get behind, right?
Yeah.
If you need more money than I can give you today, and so I give you more than what you've earned,
Yeah.
next week I've got to give you less than what you earned. And but that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to come out of pocket and at least pay you how much you earned. And that's where guys start losing the money. So
and that's where you get to the last 10% of the job and you're completely out of cash.
Yep, and you're paying a different crew to come finish because that crew's nowhere to be found because they're all paid, right?
Yeah.
So ensuring that you're holding on to every penny and giving people what's due to them from day one with new vendors. It's so hard to go backwards on this.
Oh, yeah.
Once you're walking, once you're flexible, once you're giving extra money, once you're the daddy figure handing out cash to everybody and not seeing what's happening.
Right.
Once that starts happening, it's very hard to rein it in. So start with every vendor this way.
Well, and one of the things that we do with a lot of the companies that come into the Alliance program is that we will, the guys that already have an established business and they've got 3, 4, 10, 12, 20 different guys that do work for them on a regular basis, we will encourage them to do a vendor meeting where you bring all your vendors in and say, hey guys, I'm changing the process so that you guys have more dependability, so that you're getting checks when I say you're getting them, and that we can exit jobs faster, and you make it beneficial for them, but you bring everybody in and change the gear together, and it makes it a little bit more doable of making that move. Yeah. And what we found is what we said earlier is a lot of times your good guys will stick around because they see the dependability of that, and the guys that have been taking advantage of you or kind of riding tails and just making cash and not, those guys are going to weed out.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and helping them understand why these changes are happening. So you go in and say, in that vendor meeting, or even a lot of times it's not even a full vendor meeting. A lot of times it's like, I've got 3 crews, Jason, Paul, and Guillermo, and all 3 of them I got to keep happy because those are my best guys.
Yeah.
You sit down with those 3 crews and say, listen, I want to make y'all more money and we're ready to grow. And I can't grow by visiting every job site with a checkbook every week.
Right.
And so for me to get more in your pipeline so I can feed you guys more jobs, I got to systemize this. And there is such buy-in with that open vulnerability conversation of this is why we're shifting to this way. I can't pay out unless it's done because I'm starting this new software, ProStruct 360, where the clients can see exactly what has been completed, not been completed. But instead, I'm going to start using that, and I need your help that this is how we invoice. This is how
That's right.
This is how I pay my work, and this is only way that you can get money. Are you okay with that? And every single time, the good guys are like, yeah, absolutely, that's helpful.
This is what I'm setting up, and I want to make sure that you're taken care of. And to do that, I have to have these things set in place. This is how I'm going to operate. I want to let you know so that you know what to expect.
Are you ready to grow your company? Because
That's right.
we're about to go to the next level.
That's right.
Everyone wants to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
If you want to use a software, we've got a free version of our software for estimates, invoices, online payments on the free side. If you want to use this work order system, it starts at our ProServe 360 Lite subscription.
Yep.
It's $89 a month, but you get all the communication, all of the check printing, all of that
Work
stuff,
order system.
all in one spot in the software. You can do your material. You can do a bunch of different things utilizing it at that very low cost. So check it out, prostruct360.com. We'd love to walk you through a demo, hop on a call. We also do twice a week. We do any sort of demo calls, and we have a webinar that we do. Mm-hmm. You can pop in there and ask questions even if you're not on the software.
Yeah.
We go to our website. We've got events and different things like that. You don't have to be a user. You could be on a free version. Just come ask questions. Let's talk shop. We love to talk with you guys and interact with you. So reach out to us. Let us know. Check us out, prostruct360.com.
Yep.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.